the desert of the real.
Welcome to the Desert of the Real. I am your host, Ryan Hudson, and joined with me, as always, is Junior.
Jason Dietz.
Which only doesn't work at all because, well, because I'm younger than you. It's
Oh.
Just kidding. The desert.
You're not, you are.
Well,
Like
it is a
20
fact.
years younger than me.
You know what? And that's a bigger age gap than Harrison and Sean Connery.
Oh, really?
In the movie, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
The Desert of the Real is a movie podcast where I force Jason to watch big blockbuster movies he's refused to watch because he didn't think they were worth his time. He's seen this movie, but not since he's been reborn as a critical thinker.
True.
When was that, by the way?
When was what?
When
I watched it?
No, when is this quote-unquote...
Birth?
Yeah.
I don't know. Somewhere in my master's and doctorate work.
How old were you?
Oh, let's see. 2009.
Oh, nice.
So how old is that? 35? I don't know. 15 years ago?
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
This is my 50th birthday this year, so...
Oh, nice. Happy birthday.
Practically dead at this point.
We are two English language arts high school teachers with graduate degrees, and we attempt to use our academic training to dig deeply into movies. We explore the creativity, philosophy, film studies, and ethics in our films and push you, the listener, to think critically about your entertainment.
True.
One of the core ideas in my film class I teach is putting together tools to understand why you like it or not like it. Or even like to appreciate it more, or even the opposite, to not like a movie because of
What
stuff.
and why?
Because a lot of, like, you were just saying your critical birth was 2000, when you got your master's degree.
Just somewhere in there.
It is not too much of a stretch to say high school students don't really think about their movies. Well, some do, of course, but most do not.
Yeah.
But I think that's why I like...
It's just entertainment.
Yeah, that's why I like this podcast. It's
Yeah.
like there are a lot of things we can appreciate.
Yeah.
And, ways to look at movies even if you don't agree with them, and even if they're not made with that intent. That's a fun thing. That's why we teach English. That's all we do.
Yeah.
Like, trying to make students think and understand.
Connecting movies to life.
Yeah.
And learning actual stuff that you can use in life.
Yeah.
Critical thinking.
Yeah, and if you're
Big
here,
fan.
you're a critical thinker.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming on this journey with us. Thanks for listening. We love you.
We do.
And thanks for being here.
I realized, I share with you off mic, but this movie, The Last Crusade, has lines in it that I say on a regular basis that I didn't even realize came from here.
I think this is super quotable
Yeah.
movie. A ton. This is the funniest one, easy, of all the Indiana Jones movies, and it's line after line. Like, what are some lines?
Well, I wrote some down. Germany has declared war on the Jones boys. I say all the time, and I don't know why.
That's a funny example of
for real. I say it. It pops into my head all the time. But another one that I don't say, but I paraphrase, is I said no camels. That's 5 camels. Can't you count? My boy, we're pilgrims in an unholy land. I say that a lot. So anyhow, there you go. Yours.
It's so good. I love some of the lines. I love just off the top of my head is like, I thought you were one of them. They go through the door, Dad.
Yep.
Or Venice has a fun little arc.
Yeah. It comes up out of the sewer.
He says it 3 times,
Right.
and I actually didn't catch it till this watch. I mean, it's not even really a line, but the Dad, what? Dad, what? Dad, head to the fireplace. Or he shoots the tail off the plane. Son, they got us.
Oh, yeah. I love that one.
It's so good.
Yeah. Two more.
Okay, go for it.
Two more. I should have mailed it to the Marx Brothers.
The Marx
Oh,
Brothers.
love that line. And then this one I legit say all the time. He chose poorly.
Yeah.
All the time.
You know what's so
You
funny?
chose poorly. I say that so often.
I in my brain, I made up. I guess it would have been a result of watching a bunch of YouTube or something. But I thought it would have been a funny video if someone went through like the subway line ordering a sandwich, and at the end of the subway line, that night was there. You chose poorly. That's just like a dumb joke I made up, I think, and I still think about that sometimes when I go to Subway.
My soul is prepared. How is yours? This is so great.
Yeah.
I love this movie.
There's a couple lines I'll get into more in depth, actually, because I think this is a pretty rich movie. It's full of stuff. Yeah. I was listening to a podcast where they were talking about it. One of the guys was like, "This one's mostly fluff. All these."
This one?
Yeah, and I was like,
really?
I don't agree with that at
either.
all. And he was saying there's stuff with the son and dad, but I was like, no, I think there's a lot here.
Yeah, this is my favorite one.
I think it's not out of the question to say this is the best one.
I
mean,
so.
Raiders is so perfect. Like, as a movie, as an adventure, as a structured thing. But I think this one's more fun and interesting, entertaining, though.
And more logically consistent, but you said there's a lot of plot holes.
I would say
really
there are more plot holes in this one than the first one.
I'm
easy.
to
However, they do not matter with the whole...
Plot holes matter.
Sometimes. I don't think they matter all the time,
I don't think they matter all the time either, but I think they matter a lot more than... You think they matter.
Well, if the movie works as a whole, I think that's more important. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so let's do a little bit of background first of this movie. In between Temple of Doom and this movie, Spielberg only made 2 movies. However, he also something else emerged too. His own studio, or DreamWorks, came out of around this time. He started being a studio head himself. And interestingly, in '85, The Color Purple is his first DreamWorks movie, I believe, where he took the helm. And Color Purple, a very serious movie. I think it's interesting he chose to direct it as opposed to choosing a different director to make this one. Say maybe like a black director, you know? Yeah. I mean, I think the movie is good. I've only seen it once. I don't remember it being like a fun time by any means.
Oh,
no, but like it's well made, but not one I'm like dying to rewatch personally, right. You know? Yeah. And then he makes a movie that needs more love, and I know you like it, Empire of the Sun.
I love that movie. Which
came out in '87. And a quote from the book I'm looking at says, "For the first time, I'm making a movie to satisfy me, not the audience."
It's a beautiful, beautiful movie.
Beautiful movie, great score.
Yeah.
There's a song on the score called Cadillac of the Sky, and that's on my movie playlist I listen to all the time. Young Christian Bale, it's good.
Really? The boy, right?
Yeah, he's the boy. And like really, John Malkovich is in it. I remember in high school, we were talking about like the Holocaust or just other things, but I remember my teacher using that movie as an example how like some prisoners' lives improved in prison, and John Malkovich's character is an example of that, how like he just rose the ranks in the prison and stuff. And anyway, it's a good movie about history that we don't focus on or we just, maybe don't think about a lot, and then the movie's good. Watch the movie.
That's very good.
And then comes Crusade in '89. '89. So George Lucas and Steven Spielberg had a handshake deal for 3 movies way back on the Hawaiian beach for the first movie. Yeah. Let's make 3 movies. I think George Lucas may have made one of them, but Spielberg ends up making all of them, basically. So the original idea was like the Monkey King. Like artifacts, a Chinese artifact dealing with the mythical lore of the Monkey King type of thing.
Trickster God.
Yeah, and Chris Columbus, who like directs like Home Alone and stuff, he wrote a script for it that I think exists somewhere, but that gets scrapped. George Lucas also wanted to do a haunted house, like a haunted mansion, or actually, a haunted castle movie with Indiana Jones.
Oh, wow.
And Spielberg's like, I just made Poltergeist. And, like, he's not the director, but by all accounts, he probably directed that one.
Poltergeist?
Yeah. It's one of the few movies he actually wrote. He gets screenplay credit. But he would never say he directed it because the guy who directed Chainsaw Massacre is the guy on it. But there are multiple people who say Spielberg basically directed that one. I know. But, and, you know, whatever.
Well, he did a good job on it.
Yeah.
It's one of the best.
But then George Lucas, once again, to his credit, is like, let's do the Holy Grail. And Spielberg's like, no, that's cliche. Plus, Monty Python just came out. We can't do a Holy Grail. But eventually...
It just come out. That was a long...
Well, I guess it was...
At the time of the conversation.
It was like Holy Grail is just connected to something like Monty Python.
Python owns it.
Except for, did you ever see the movie Excalibur? What year did that movie come out? You don't know?
I wouldn't know.
Because I'm going to... I might bring it up later in this episode. Excalibur is... Excalibur is 81. So, besides Monty Python, that's the other, like, Knights of the Round Table getting...
The Crusade movie?
Well, I'll talk Excalibur later, because it comes up again. So this is a quote from Spielberg. "The Grail legend was interesting to me symbolically because it represented the search for oneself. But making a movie about that seemed too esoteric for this genre. But like the Holy Grail was important to George, which I think you need someone to like, this is why it's important to make it work. But Spielberg's like, yeah, but Indiana Jones figuring out who he is and his father connection, that's the thing that's more interesting to me, type of thing.
Right.
And I think and I've talked a little bit about The Fabelmans, the movie that Spielberg made like a couple years ago, our time, about like his childhood, because his parents got divorced when he was young, and his dad kind of just left, and he resented his dad for a long time, basically. Yeah. And knowing that, even just from just the Fabelmans text, this movie has a lot of that pulled from Spielberg into here. The absentee father,
right?
You know, like Indy in that regards is Spielberg, like this young. I don't know, he's not a kid, I guess. He's, you know, a young adult, like, being, like, the best at what he does.
Yeah.
And then connecting with his dad. Because they do reconnect emotionally, and they rebuild that.
Yeah, and I think these two, Ford and Connery, are magnificent together.
Yeah.
One of the biggest pros for me was the dynamic between the two of them. And it's not just verbal. And it's not even just physical, like the facial, the facial acting, is that a thing?
Yeah.
Facial acting in this movie is absolutely marvelous. Especially Harrison Ford, watching him struggle with, I'm still a kid in my dad's mind, I'm a kid in my mind.
Yeah, when he meets his dad.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. You know, like...
Yeah. And then just him, like, the whole negotiation of where do we... Oh, we're not father and son as in a little kid thing. Like, it's marvelous.
Yeah.
It's one of the best movies I've ever seen for that absentee father coming back in and working through all of the ramifications of that. These two do a marvelous job of it.
Because I think, in the movie, Indy's always resented his dad.
Yeah.
Like, you're never there. I basically raised myself, whatever. But I think it's pretty clear Indy unintentionally became his dad.
Yeah. Yep.
Even though he's resented him for that, basically.
Yeah.
Hold on, because Sean Connery is only 12 years older than Harrison.
Oh.
But
he looks way older.
He looks way older. That's what I think drinking and smoking does to a person, you know?
Sleeping around.
But he was balding back in James Bond years, but he wore like a piece, like a hairpiece.
Yeah.
But in recent years, he's accepted his natural look. Like, just a few years earlier, The Untouchables came out, where, you know, at the time, it's like, oh, Sean Connery, top of his game now, type of thing. Right. Anyway, so Sean Connery's kind of made, like, Hunt for Red October is just around the corner, too.
Another really good movie.
Yeah, and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves is not too far away. He's accepted his old age look, basically.
Right.
He isn't humble, though, by any means. No. There's a fun behind, like, when he accepted the role, he's famous for being like, here's what I think should happen. It's like, he literally told Spielberg, he needs to be better at Indy in every way, basically.
Right.
And I think, I don't know if it's around his back or unintentional, I think they make Sean Connery as the dad, I think he thought he was cooler than he turns out to be, because I will never say he's cooler than Indiana Jones, but Sean Connery literally is like, anything Indy's good at, I'm better at, in a way. And the movie's so good at.
I suddenly remembered my Charlemagne.
Yeah. Anyway, just to finish this real quick, Steven Spielberg says, I'm making the third movie to apologize for the second.
Fair enough.
And another thing is, Spielberg seeing his contemporaries kind of doing more in-depth movies. And that's what he was trying to do with, like, the last two movies. Mm-hmm. Like, Scorsese, around this time, came out with Raging Bull, like, the boxing film, right, which is not so much about boxing. It's about, like, a man becoming a worse person of himself and the journey into the darkness type of thing. Yeah. So he's literally... Actually, let me read a quote. What am I doing? Not enough has been said about the obvious aspect of his career, the sheer range of it. The movie follows hard into the solemnity and self-consciousness of The Color Purple and Empire of the Sun. It is only 4 years and 4 films prior to Schindler's List, yet his commitment to it is no less intense than it is to those other films. Of his peers among his friends and contemporaries, like Martin Scorsese and Clint Eastwood, it says, he has ranged, perhaps, with more ease and grace from the cheerfully goofy to the heartbreaking, with no loss of craft or of spirit. No, I'll stop there. This book, the guy he has a running thread of, Spielberg likes to make movies about the Lost Boys, like Empire of the Sun and E.T. And he says, quote there, that Indy's kind of like the biggest of all the Lost Boys type of thing, which is
cool.
Kind of cool. Okay, before we get too far, because I don't know if we want to keep this, can I tell you a fan theory?
Sure.
And you're editing, so you can decide if you want to keep this.
Okay.
There is a very niche fan theory that Indiana Jones is a Mormon. Let me explain.
Okay.
Where does this movie start off?
This one in Utah.
In Utah. Interesting. And does his dad have kind of a thick European accent, you could say?
Yeah.
What would a bunch of Europeans be doing in the middle of Utah?
Maybe they immigrated with some religious group or something.
So it's a very
interesting
niche thing. Idea is like he's in the Boy Scouts, like literally in Utah territory or whatever. His dad doesn't like to blaspheme. I guess he doesn't mind sleeping with...
Right. Apparently both of them wandered from the path at some point.
Yeah, Indian's definitely a Jack Mormon, you'd say. But it's a niche little fan theory of, hey, there's a couple clues here that could make it make sense. He's clearly not a practicing member since...
Of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Yes, but maybe he was at one point.
Interesting.
Anyway, The Last Crusade. I know I've talked a lot, but you know what's interesting about the Sean Connery James Bond thing is I would wager a lot of millennials close to my age is their introduction to Sean Connery is this movie. Or at the time,
he's Bond in the 70s, right? Or late 60s, early 70s.
And then like he came back for one during the Roger Moore run. And it's not made by the James Bond people who own the rights and stuff. And anyway, it didn't do well financially or critically.
Right.
I know that's the case for me. This is my introduction to Sean Connery, the actor. Because unless there's a chance you grew up with some of the James Bond movies, but I think not everyone does.
No.
In my age or younger. Right. I think it's interesting that it's kind of like the reverse idea of like, he's too big of a name for this type of thing, but no, now it's like, no, he's from Indiana Jones in a way.
Last Crusade.
Yeah. Anyway.
It tells me goose-stepping morons like yourself should try reading books instead of burning them.
You know,
so many good lines.
You know what's a line I say all the time, actually?
From this?
From this movie?
Yeah.
When young Indiana Jones comes out of the cave, he says, "Everyone's lost but me." I say that all the time when I don't know where someone is. Everyone's lost but me.
So we found another movie that's kind of in us.
Did you ever see the TV show Young Indiana Jones?
No.
Me neither. They're on Disney Plus, and I should check them out.
Maybe.
I don't think they're well loved, but Harrison Ford's in at least one of them.
Huh.
He came back to reprise his role. But I also know, because I've seen the clip, there's something like they're in some sort of cabin in the middle of like winter, and the bad guy's getting away. So Indy grabs a saxophone or something, blows a super loud note, and makes it snow.
Yep.
That happens.
I will never watch that. That's convinced me.
But this guy, River Phoenix, famously died young. He was not in that show, and he was one of like the greats. He's in this movie because he was Harrison Ford's son in a different movie right before this, and Harrison's like, get that kid, he's good. And I think the beginning of this movie is like a mini movie in a way,
right.
And I think it's more successful at tapping into the nostalgia than most other examples of this.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Think of, like, famously another Harrison Ford character, Solo, a Star Wars story, like the movie. It's attempting to do everything the beginning of this film does in 2 hours.
Yeah.
Where does Han get his gun? Where does he meet Chewie?
Right.
But this movie, we understand his fear of snakes, the whip, his hat, his whole personality, and I think it works.
Yeah,
really,
really well.
Yeah. Another film we'll do eventually is in one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. You get a flashback of young Jack, and it's a similar idea. Does not work. This
is it.
I think mostly because it's not in your face. It's just kind of you see it happen, and it's fast, and then the movie moves on.
Yeah.
Even how he gets his scar on his chin,
right,
which is a real scar Harrison has in real life. You see him, I get it. Anyway, it's a good movie. That's what I'm trying to say.
It's got some incredibly memorable scenes. Like the library scene is so memorable, and when they go to Berlin, I mean, it's what, 5 minutes, but like my vision of what Nazism looks like comes from that scene.
Yeah.
Like the book burning, the marching, just the fanaticism.
Yeah.
Like, and then like the Zeppelin, the whole Zeppelin thing. And so, I mean, this got so many scenes that when I think of those things, this is what I think of. When I think of Nazism, it's this. When I think of Zeppelins, it's this.
Yeah, you know what? Let's bring back Zeppelins. I know.
Well, Pink Floyd, famously.
Are they pro-Zeppelin?
Well, no, they sent a Zeppelin across the United States.
Oh, I didn't know this.
To advertise the Division Bell, their last
good album, relevant album. I'm sure.
Well, they only had one more, but like they sent a Zeppelin across the United States with Pink Floyd on the bottom.
Because here's the thing: Zeppelins famously might blow up.
Yeah,
not good. And they're slow, and planes are just kind of. But maybe you don't want to go fast. Maybe you want to eat a dinner in a floating restaurant and take your time. I think Zeppelins are cool.
Yeah.
Let's bring back Zeppelins.
If we do bring back Zeppelins, the rule has to be only Led Zeppelin can be played on a Zeppelin.
Right. There's this movie, and then there are baseball blimps.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a movie from the 70s or 80s about a blimp crashing into a stadium that John Williams does the music for.
Huh?
A forgotten movie, because I didn't know about it until someone pointed out, but like, anyway, you see, that doesn't even, it's this movie. It's the Zeppelin movie. But you know what I also realized watching this movie? All the set pieces. We got a train chase. Yeah. We got some fighting on a boat.
Yeah.
We got boats, like the boat chase, I mean. We got tanks. Yeah. We got planes. Yeah. We got all the vehicles.
The Zeppelins.
Yeah. It's
good stuff,
good.
Except for the tank one.
No, tank's good.
No.
Tank's good.
Well, let's shift into cons since we've kind of been bubbling. Very interested in the plot holes that you have identified in this movie.
Okay.
Because I only know the gas one.
Oh, yeah.
And
You mean...
then the whole tank thing and the Word of God trap. Those are the three logical holes in this movie that we can talk about, but I want to run the plot holes.
A plot hole, you could say, is like when he gets the cross at the beginning and the boat explodes. How does Indy get home?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know?
But that's just not told.
I know. It's kind of like the submarine thing from Raiders. You see him on the submarine and then... whoop.
Yep, he's home.
But it's also... I think the biggest one is on the blimp. There's that fantastic line where he punches the Nazi out.
No ticket.
No ticket. And that's fun. And he's just... So the other Nazi lands in the luggage... And then they're just in the air. There's not like any other officer. Like, hey,
that's true.
Did that guy just get punched out?
High-ranking Nazi official.
You know, but I think the movie is made in such a way where Spielberg like almost distracts you from thinking about stuff like that.
Sure.
It's like, does it make sense that they're taking off now? And maybe not, but. It's such a great moment that we don't...
Yeah.
Not worried about it.
I would not have pulled either of those out.
I guess I don't have a whole lot of other ones. It's just... There's a few times where it's like, wouldn't there be more bad guys around? Like, after the motorcycle chase? Wouldn't there be, the hornet's nest, like, chasing these guys or something? Like...
Depends, I guess.
You know,
how many people there are.
Whatever, it doesn't ruin the movie.
So the gas thing does. Every time I watch this movie, the gas thing drives me nuts.
How you see little things of fire fall
from
the torch.
But the liquid that is there has to be made.
Oh.
Gas doesn't exist until it's made from petroleum. So the whole pool, all of that is not possible unless somebody made it and pumped it in there. That doesn't exist. But yeah, the little flaming bits dropping, that doesn't work. Have you ever gotten gas in your eye? That doesn't work. You don't see underneath gas. Yeah. Gas will burn the frick out of your eyeballs.
Okay.
Like, that whole thing doesn't work for me. But, I thought it would be cooler when they come up for the third time, he says, Venice, when they pop up, if, the gas had blown that off. Because if there's that kind of fire and they're growing, the gas is going to be burning and shooting flames out from somewhere.
That's funny,
But no. Anyhow, so the gas thing and then everything about the tank drives me nuts.
Why? Name
all
one
of it.
thing.
Everything.
One thing.
Everything.
No,
all of it.
All of it's perfect.
No. Okay, I'll name one thing. So he sticks the rock in the thing, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what happens to a gun when you plug the end and shoot it? It explodes.
That's what happens.
It doesn't just shoot the little ball back into the guy. It explodes. The gun itself explodes. But, great. So we have this kind of ludicrous looking flower thing on the end of this.
I'm just gonna Google some images.
You
just keep talking.
No, okay. So the part that most drives me nuts is he's fighting the high-ranking German guy.
Yeah.
He knocks him off. Somehow the strap on his little strappy thing gets wrapped around the barrel of a gun. The end of which is flowered out. There's no way that happened. Great. Whatever. He's hanging on. He's trying to whatever. And then they get past the edge of the cliff thing that he was going to get crushed into. And somehow the strap is no longer a problem and he's back on the tank. Bull crap. Okay. That's garbage.
Sure.
Everything that happens on that tank is stupid. He shoots 4 guys with 1 bullet? No, that's not a thing.
Okay, but that's fun though.
No, that's stupid. That's not. I would love if the whole tank thing did not exist. But that's okay.
The tank thing is good.
It's fun.
You got the conveyor belt of death.
The conveyor belt of death that only deaths certain people, but not other people.
You got because you
stupid. Anyhow, there's that 5 minutes of this movie that I hate. Everything else, though, I'm like, man, this is an amazing movie.
I think the tank stuff is good.
You would.
You know what?
It's okay.
To pile on cons, because at the end, I think there's also a few maybe issues. Like, the bad guy, I forget his name. Donovan, I think he's kind of an interesting foil to Belloc from the first one. Because they're similar but different enough in subtle ways. Yeah. Actually, let's work here. Belloc is like using the Nazis as a means to an end to uncover history, which is more important anyway. Right. Donovan's more like, I'm rich and I want to do this.
Yeah, I want the Grail.
They're different enough, but you kind of have to think about it in a way. Yeah. Donovan could have maybe spent more time before he drank from that cup, I think.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
He's got no timetable. Indy does.
He's not a moron. Yeah, that's true.
Except for it is implied Elsa does deliberately trick him, though.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so
I would agree.
That's the reasoning, but it's kind of...
And he does seem to rely on her pretty heavily for, like, the knowledge side of it.
The femme fatale.
Yeah. But as part of the end of that, the three, what are they, trials or whatever I don't remember what he calls them. The Word of God trial doesn't work for me. It doesn't make
the spell Jehovah in Latin
sense. Yeah, because we have him falling through because he steps on the J. Like, how on earth is all of that there? Like, how is it suspended? How does it not fall apart?
Yeah. You know what? You could when you see his feet dangling, there are a couple like pillars. It doesn't line up, so it doesn't look like it does. But I think it's implied those pillars you see are the ones that are. Yeah. It doesn't, and like the leap of faith doesn't really make sense. But it's such a great moment, though. It's such a like Hollywood moment that it logically does not work. Right. However, that is a practical thing. Like, that's not like computer enhanced. I don't think it's not like fully made, but I think it's the model of the camera turns perfectly and stuff. Oh. That's a practical thing, though.
Oh, that's cool.
Looks kind of like it's not.
Right.
But it is.
Yeah. Other than that, I think this is a pretty dang good movie.
Yeah.
This is a 4.5-star movie for me.
This movie, I am hard pressed not to give it 5 just because it's...
I would if the gas thing and the tank thing.
Okay, let me quote this movie for you. Let it go. Let it go.
Indeed, let it go. Oh, also, I remember the first time I watched this movie when... Indy's, he drinks it, and his dad drinks it, and then it goes to, like, Brody and Sala, and they're like, can I have a sip of that, maybe? I was like, how can he not pass that thing around if he's now immortal?
Also, something I've never noticed, he had a couple of scrapes on his face. Those disappear after he drinks.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, just drink.
If the cup of Christ grants... immortality, which is the basis of this movie. Yeah. Why do the knights die?
Because the restrictions are literally in that.
So you're immortal in that room.
That's what the knight says. That's the price and the cost of immortality.
I thought you couldn't take the
You
cut.
need to be here. Yeah.
Oh, that's bothered me ever since I watched this movie. I thought they just couldn't take the Grail. Past the seal.
Your immortality.
You're not immortal
past the seal.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
The night.
That changes a lot of my complaints about the next movie then. Because I'm watching the next movie, I'm like, he's immortal, so there's no danger here. Like, if that's the case, that makes a lot of sense.
I was thinking about that watching this because Donovan's. He's, all he wants is immortal. I think if Indy didn't get in the way, the other version of this is Donovan literally sets up shop in there. He's like, I'm immortal. I'm building.
This is my new empire.
This is where I'm gonna live. I think he would have done that. I think.
Yeah, probably.
Because Indy lives outside. You can leave. You can come back and get
a
I think there's if Indy doesn't get in the way, Donovan would have set up shop and
probably
built everything around that place. which is like a real location. Not the inside part, but the outside part.
In the Valley of the Kings.
Yeah, and I've always wanted to visit it.
Yeah.
They recently, as in the last year, discovered stuff underneath the ground there.
Oh.
From the ancient, like when it was like as a
built.
civilization. They found, the funny thing is they found a cup, which is the funniest thing.
Oh, that is funny.
Yeah, because they did scans under the ground and stuff. But yeah, it doesn't look like that on the inside.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I've always wanted to visit though. But yeah, you can't leave. So the knight's been there for 700 years
Just
in
waiting.
that room. It's kind of funny though.
Kinda
He's
go
like,
insane.
you have to defeat me. He falls over. Oh, you defeated me. But Indy's like, no, I'm not here to replace you.
Right.
Like, because well, let's talk about it because it ties into some of the big themes of this movie.
Okay.
Indy grew up with Sean Connery, who's literally James Bond, but Indiana Jones based his personality on a stranger,
Right.
whose name is Fedora.
Okay.
He's actually a great little it's his time on screen is so short,
Right.
but you kind of can tell why he bases it.
Yeah.
Because he's stealing or this artifact, but like the guy like laughs to himself when Indy gets away.
Yeah.
He respects Indiana
Yeah.
Jones,
Yeah.
and he has that fantastic line: "You lost today. That doesn't mean you gotta like it."
Yeah.
And I think it works. Indy, his entire look on this one interaction.
Sure.
I think,
I think it works great.
and it sets up like him and his dad not seeing eye to eye,
Right.
all of the stuff. It's great. Like, it's great storytelling, so I'm trying to say.
It is.
And I know you know. We all know. Everyone listening knows. But it's got one of the best transitions of all time. Put the hat down, looks up,
Yeah.
punch in the face. It belongs in a museum.
Yeah.
Anyway, part of the reason why you could argue he becomes his dad is he's a professor and he's teaching at this college and everyone wants his time. And instead of helping any of them, he leaves out the back window.
Yeah.
Kind of arguably what his dad did. It's
Yeah,
like, instead of giving his time and attention to the students, he's like, I got to go off on an adventure.
So that's an interesting question. Does everyone become their parents? As of recording, there's a ad campaign that's built on.
Oh, I know exactly what
We
you're
can't
saying.
help you not become your parents, but.
Yeah, those are funny.
So that's one of the questions I came out of this with is, do we become our parents to a certain extent?
I think yes.
Yeah.
Even if we don't think we do.
Yeah. Because I see my parents in me daily.
Yeah. And I see my parents in me. I see my wife's parents in her, type of thing.
Yeah. So it's interesting that, especially as teenager leading into adulthood, I think I certainly did, and probably a lot of us are like, I am never ever gonna be like fill in the blank this, and then we do.
That's one of the big things I want to get into or plan to get into with this is like him and his dad, like the parental child relationship.
Yeah.
That's at the heart of the movie.
Yeah.
And like I see my kids and they're young, like my oldest is 5, but she's just becoming like this person, and it's a huge deal.
Yeah.
And you have grown children,
I do.
so you're ahead of me because you're old, but just checking. But like I was thinking about that just the other day. We were like inner tubing or whatever, and it's my 5-year-old on the inner tube and stuff. I'm like, look at this little person. And like, okay, so Indy, after the tank scene you don't like for some reason, there's,
Because it's absurd.
there's the fake out death in a way. But, Sean Connery's character, Henry Jones, he thinks Indy is dead. And like, there's that line that kind of guts me now, which never has before, where it's like, I didn't tell him anything. It would have taken 5 minutes. I think that line is like, it hits me hard now, because
It should. I think it should hit everyone hard.
like, because parenting's not easy. Even this line kind of like jokes around, not the line, the movie jokes around where it's like, I didn't get in your way, I respected your privacy,
Right.
and Indy just wanted a dad.
Right.
But then we see how Indy turns out. But in real life, hopefully as parents, or parents, are in their kids' lives, are trying to guide them and teach them and raise them.
Yeah.
And even if you do your best, it's still hard.
I've discovered as the father of adult children now, even though you do your best, you still will come up short. And that's okay. I think that's a part of what we have to have in order to grow and become our own person.
Yeah.
So the reason I asked that question, do we become our parents, is that we need as a species, I guess, to recognize the absolute essential role that fathers and mothers play in shaping the future. We live now, 2025. We're very interested in entertainment, and being entertained and spending our time like how we want to spend our time. I think that's very dangerous. I've mentioned a couple of times on the podcast, this podcast is literally the only hobby I've ever had outside of my family, outside of being home.
Yeah.
And with adult kids, I felt like I did good as a dad.
Yeah.
But from the perspective of my adult kids, I was imperfect as a father, and that's okay. The gutting of you of that line, I never told him anything.
Yeah.
You only have a very short amount of time with these kids until they become adults and they become their own people and whatever. I remember being the father of my 6 kids and being like, oh my gosh, this is never going to end. There's another poopy diaper, another puking, another thising, but it goes so fast.
Yeah.
And that shaping power that you have as a parent goes. And so what I'm trying to say here is, parents of young children recognize that at least in part, you will be in your children. What do you want to have there? What do you want your kids to have from you? And we need to live intentionally especially with regards to being a parent.
Mm-hmm.
Because you are shaping your children. You are shaping the future. I know that's a cliche, but it's literally true. And this movie, like I said earlier, I think does a phenomenal job illustrating that.
Yeah.
Because all that Indy had from his dad was this almost fanatical dedication
to... he knows Latin, sure.
Right.
But I think he'd rather play ball,
Well, right, but like you mentioned that he's escaping out the window, whatever. So all that he had of his dad was that fanatical dedication. It showed up in adult Indy. Mm-hmm. Nothing else of his dad showed up because there wasn't anything else. And so this movie does a great job illustrating whatever you are in the lives of your kids will be what shows up in them. So make it good. Make it intentional. Make it what you want to have show up. In your kids later on. So I think this movie does a great job showing us the importance of parents and the importance of intentionally giving your kids the parts of you that you hope they will adopt and become. So now I'll shut up.
But okay, so I'm not all the way done with this phase of my kids yet, but there's a time where your kids love you unconditionally. They think you're the best. And I am still... with my 3.
Enjoy it.
Yeah, because I don't know when that ends, but then, there's the angsty teen years.
Yeah.
And
Which are fun in their own right.
Yeah, but my oldest will be going to kindergarten this year. So it's which parents have done forever, but first time it's this is the beginning for the next 12 years.
Yep.
You're doing this, and at the end of those 12 years, you leave, basically. Mm-hmm. So
it's also the beginning of the outside shaping of your kids.
Yeah.
Because for the first 5-6 years, it's just you. That's basically all.
Yeah.
And so again, recognizing the power of those first 5-6 years.
Yes, you're right. And it all builds up in this movie. The end. I think it's important. Henry Jones drinks from the cup and holds the cup. I think that's important. But he also recognizes this thing isn't more important than my own child or my own son. The whole let it go is so huge.
He finally realizes that.
And we said this last week, it's it's almost a bummer that they wasted the Fortune and Glory line in Temple of Doom,
Right.
where it would have been way better in this movie.
Yeah.
But at the end, instead of retreading it, like, what did you get? And the dad said, illumination.
Yeah.
And I forget what Indy says. Does he say something?
remember.
Me
I don't
neither.
think he says anything.
But I think they replaced the Fortune and Glory with the, I got illumination. Like
Which I think is good.
it's good because it's implied him and Indy's, like, they'll be more connected. Like, obviously we know he's not in the next one. He chose not to come out of retirement in 2008 or whatever, but it would have been nice to see him, I think, though.
Yeah.
Especially with the introduction to a grandson type of thing. But it's good for here. This was the intended ending. They literally ride off into the sunset.
Yeah. And that's where it should have ended.
It really should have.
Just like other movie series that we've talked about.
What? Like what?
Like
Marvel?
All of them. Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Marvel. Oh, yeah.
There's actually... Never mind. Well, you know what? I'll say it. Because we'll do Pirates, because I love the Pirates films. But they didn't know they were going to make more of those. The writers literally said, when they're sitting down to write the second and third movies, are we going Star Wars or Indiana Jones? Meaning, are these going to be one story, or are these going to be like kind of episodic adventures? And most franchises choose to do Star Wars, which maybe is a mistake.
I think it is almost 100% a mistake.
Where Indy, it's like there are bad Indiana Jones movies, but you can ignore them because there are good Indiana Jones movies. I guess my whole point in a lot of that was the theme of your parents and your children is so powerful here.
Yeah,
it's not fluff. It's deep.
It's what makes this one the best one.
I agree. I got some other cool insights though. Not all of which are from me, but when the dad uses the seagulls to take down the plane, he quotes, I remembered my Charlemagne. Let the armies be the rocks and the trees and the birds in the sky. So I looked up that line. I was like, oh, Charlemagne, a French king. He's influential, but I personally don't know all the ins and outs about why he was so important. However, guess what? He never said that line.
Oh.
So I looked it up, and this is what Google says. While the line is associated with Charlemagne in the film, there's no evidence he ever said or wrote it. The quote might have been inspired by a similar sentiment found in a quote by Bernard of Clairvaux, I'll say. And the quote is, trees and stones will teach you what you cannot learn from masters. So
the line doesn't exist?
The line is not official. But here's something I didn't know until this rewatch, and I got some inspiration from Reddit. His dad used the birds to take down the plane. Indy uses a rock to take down the tank. He's learning that lesson to use nature, which is kind of a cool insight. Let me use this to fight. Anyway, I've never thought of that. Or anyway, there's so many. I even wrote down like with when he meets Hitler. That's such it's so good. The moment.
Good. Yeah.
It's like Hitler's so wrapped up in himself. He assumes. There's just so many good moments.
Yeah.
The fire, like the whole like fireplace spinning around.
That's silly, but yeah.
It's good.
It's good. It's silly though.
When he comes in, I like that his whole plan is to switch hats with Elsa.
Yeah.
But if you look at the guy's mouth, he doesn't say Mickey Mouse. He said something else, and I guess it was maybe a reference that... you can look up what he says, but he's like, if you are...
a Scottish lord,
I am Mickey Mouse. It's like, Indy, I guess you could have just punched your way in.
Yeah.
You didn't need it. But it's just one of those things. I guess I should have mentioned this earlier, but when the guy says, when they're going after the Holy Grail, is it for his glory or for yours? Yeah. That pleads into the fortune and glory take. That because that's why Indy was allowed to not be killed by those guys. He's not after the cup. He's after his dad.
Right.
And he leaves. It all ties. It is. So, the search for the cup of Christ is the search for the divine in all of us. All right, and my other main thing I'm bringing is this is heavily influenced, by Arthurian legend.
Right.
And I went through and I looked up specific things, and if you've seen the movie Excalibur, it's all there in glorious 80s ridiculousness. Okay, so Excalibur, a movie. I feel like if someone said it's their favorite movie, like, yeah, I believe you. I don't agree necessarily, but it's just so much. It's like, yeah, of course people would love this. But I kid you not, in almost every shot there's just a green light lighting up the scene, and you see it reflected on their shiny armors. Merlin wears a shiny head cap at all times, and you can see cameras and lights in it and stuff.
Oh, really?
But there's just a green light in every shot for some reason. But some comparisons, it's not 1-to-1, but there's the wise old guardian protecting it, which I learned is the Fisher King in Arthurian legend.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't know that was the name of it.
I didn't either.
Because there's a movie called Fisher
King.
King.
That was a Robin Williams movie.
Yeah, but in legend, it's the guy who protects the cup. Huh. There's the tests and trials.
Right.
The Elsa, like I said, the femme fatale, which doesn't apply to Arthurian legend necessarily, but there's the woman who's has King Arthur's son, but trying to lead to Arthur's downfall because she wants her son to be king. Morgan Le Fay. So there's kind of the female thing. So I don't know if it's necessarily made like that. This type of stuff is the stuff that George Lucas is focused on.
Sure.
But it's the modern retelling of it, which is kind of cool. Yeah. Instead of knights shining armor, you get whips and leather jackets. Yeah. But the ultimate thing is true in both. It's the cup actually doesn't help you in the end necessarily. It's the quest for the Grail, right, which changes you. It's the quest for the Grail that is the important part. It's not the Grail itself. Yeah. Even though the Grail does help in both versions.
Sure. Yeah.
So, I think it's only Lancelot and sometimes in specific versions Parzival that get the Grail. Because there's a lot of different versions of all of these things. It's based on this cool legend, but somehow only the main idea is what the important in both. Yeah. I like that a lot.
That's good.
Because Knights Shining Armor, it's all about the chivalrous, the code of chivalry. You have to be a specific way to be a knight. You have to be chivalrous, and the Grail is supposed to be for the most spiritual, inept person.
Right.
And in the end, Indy, I think it's that lesson we've talked about. It's it's family. It's not the fortune and glory. It's the ability to let go of prize. Because that's what Donovan's whole deal with. The Nazis, they wanted it for riches. And they wanted it for selfish desires.
Right.
Not Indiana Jones. Yeah. Anyway.
Cool.
That's most of my stuff.
Yeah. I just have one more thing that we kind of started last week, and you put a big pin in it.
Oh yeah, I wanted to get back to that. I forgot. Yeah,
I want to return to it because it actually directly relates to the movie I chose for my choice.
Oh yeah.
Just the idea that the existence of a world, an unseen world, I guess. So one of the major philosophical questions is how should we be living our lives in view of temporality, or the inevitable end of us and the world. And so in all three Indiana Jones movies, like you mentioned last week, the idea of a world beyond is a crucial running piece of the film. And so last week we talked about, all of the scientific or pseudoscientific arguments for the existence of something beyond this. So in this movie, the idea of immortality, is an interesting one because if you know anything about DNA, it is possible that we could turn off the mortality switch.
Yeah.
And so if that's true, I think it's a fascinating question, the existence of this world beyond. DNA, as far as science has taken us, is only related to the mortal realm or whatever, but who says there's not, spiritual DNA? So if you look at a cell, like just an individual cell, it behaves intelligently.
Okay, yeah.
Internally. Like RNA has its own DNA. And so if intelligence exists at a cellular level, why is it impossible that it exists at a macrocellular level, or at a level beyond what we in our limited spheres are able to deal with? So like one of my favorite philosophical moments in film comes right at the end of Men in Black, ironically enough. If you remember the end of Men in Black, like it pulls back from the earth and pulls back and back and back. Yeah. And then the whole universe is a marble in someone else's world.
Yeah.
That aliens are playing marbles with our universe.
Yeah. What a great...
like, it's a fantastic philosophical moment. And so just kind of, I guess the question I want us to just kind of play with is that idea that the known world, I guess, isn't it. We know that there's a smaller world. We know that at a cellular level, things are going on. We know at an atomic level, things are going on. Why do we assume that our level that we're on now is the top level? I think that's, I don't know, hubris for us to decide somehow that we are the pinnacle. We've got, like, okay, so I can just keep going. For example, we have the whole idea of, like, Arrival or Contact. Those are two movies that deal directly with the idea that we're not only are we not the pinnacle, we're not even remotely close to being the pinnacle of intelligence in the universe, right? And so I think it's just an interesting intellectual playground, I guess, to pursue that, like the existence of the spirit world from raiders, or the existence of natural law that we don't understand from Temple of Doom, like his ability to reach into flesh. Like what we know about the atomic structure is atoms are almost entirely empty space. Yeah. And so it is possible, if someone figured out how to align perfectly, for someone to do what Mola does in the Temple of Doom, to just align those atoms and reach in and so that's what Indiana Jones, the trilogy, is interested in asking. I think, in addition to the parenting, is it wants us to play with this idea and explore it. Immortality for this one, which is really interesting, and that's one of the reasons why I think Indiana Jones is massively better than any other action hero. Is it's not just the action; it's introducing and kind of suggesting to us the reality of a world beyond ours. Knowing what I know about the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I know that the series continues to do that. In the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it's not spirits, it's not, aligning the matter or whatever, and it's not immortality and, the ability to prolong life. It's aliens, right? Mm-hmm. In Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
We'll get there, but it's technically interdimensional beings.
Interdimensional beings. But this theme, I think is really interesting. I personally, philosophically, believe very strongly in a world outside of our senses' ability to interact with them, our sight, sound, whatever. But it's always an interesting conversation if you can have it independent of pathos or an emotional connection to a religion or whatever. It's a really interesting logical discussion to have. That's all I got.
Here's something you made me think of. Because for the sake of your argument, I would wager most people in the world may be unwilling to do the work to get to that point. Because with Indiana Jones as the metaphor, Indy just doesn't get to the supernatural stuff right away. Right. He has to go on a journey to get there. For 3 movies so far. So I would maybe, to kind of support your argument, it's to get to a point where you could see how you see, or for others to see, they have to do something, you know?
Sure, yeah.
Like, Indy had to follow the clues to get to the place where the Grail was. That wasn't easy.
Yeah.
In Temple of Doom, he had to uncover a whole secret organization that's doing this ritual. That wasn't maybe easy either.
Yeah.
Or and then in Raiders, it's like, yeah, this will happen if you do that. But to do that, you have to have the arc. You have to have whatever.
Yeah, that's a really good insight.
When I was a missionary, there was a lesson I taught once to someone who didn't believe in God. And I forgot where I stole it. I stole it from someone, but I was like, I had an apple. It's like, are there seeds in this apple? It's like, yeah. It's like, but how do you know there are seeds in this apple? It's like, yeah, because there are seeds in apples. Yeah, like you can't. Yeah, you don't know that though. Like, maybe you've seen them before, but what about this apple? But the point was like, you have to do something.
Yeah.
You have to personally explore or do a thing to uncover it.
I love that.
Regardless of what other people have said before.
Yeah, I love that.
So like with whatever faith, it's like if it's true, you have to do your end. And that's kind of like, and back to this movie, to get to the Holy Grail, there's that leap of faith.
Yeah.
That you have to work your end to uncover the truth, or maybe even not truth. I don't know. It's just the journey you're on for whatever it is.
The critical thinking. So even maybe independent of a faith, like what you're saying is still true. Like even if you're only pursuing the ability to think critically, that's an action. You have to act in order for that to happen. I mean, to interact with the idea of a spirit world or a world beyond, you've got to. Yeah, I love that. That's a really great insight.
A pursuit into the spiritual or whatever, it just takes time, and dealing with life, like jobs and family and social stuff, entertainment, like you get distracted. And I think the thing that stops most people from exploring the stuff you're talking about is just the time and work and dedication it would take.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I don't know, because it's still, I guess, like a big argument the say there's a world beyond the world you see.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if everyone would even willing to even play with that, like
right,
you know, type of thing.
Yeah, which is why we don't. But it's just this massive kind of fertile ground for critical thinking. Like if you need a playground, an intellectual playground, I think the unseen world is a marvelous place to dip your toe in. Yeah, so I guess that's a good segue. So largely as a result of your comments last movie about like the possibilities and the religiousness or ghosts or whatever, I picked one of my very favorite movies called The Others.
Which is funny because you had another movie chosen.
I did.
And then we were in your classroom and you just had it there. And you're like, oh, I've never seen this one.
And then I immediately realized that this would be the perfect movie to continue this conversation.
Because it talks about like the unknown.
A lot about the unknown. Where is this? And who is this?
Religion,
what
too.
Is this? The Others, it's, I think, Nicole Kidman's best movie. She's absolutely perfect in it.
2001.
And so just to kind of focus how we're going to look at this movie, this is a kind of a continuation of this conversation that we're having here. So, So enjoy 2001's The Others. One of my very favorite movies. I think it might even be a perfect movie. But we'll talk about whether or not it's perfect
next week.
So
I have one final thought, because I edited out of the last episode because I wasn't sure. But Indiana Jones, for some reason, literally at some point has his companion Duck.
Oh, really?
It's in this movie too, and I know it's in the next one.
Oh, cool.
It's with Marion. It's like Duck when they're right before the chase with the baskets. In Temple of Doom, he has Willie Duck when the cart chase. In this movie, it's right at the boat thing where it's like,
Oh.
don't go between them. Go between them. Are you crazy? I said, don't go between. Anyway,
Yeah.
he says duck. I don't know why, but that's a
just
thing
a
that
thing.
happens in all of.
Like that thing in Star Wars. What is that they say in all the movies? I have a bad feeling about this.
Yeah,
It's just a thing.
it's just a thing that
An
happens.
Easter egg.
Along with Wilhelm, of course.
Yeah.
Wilhelm.
There are all movies.
There's
that
a
Wilhelm
funny
in.
Wilhelm scream in the next one because I know where it is because it's kind of goofy.
Oh.
Watch out when you listen in 2 weeks. But anyway, yeah, we'll see if it's in the 5th one because I do not remember.
Yeah.
But for some
sure
reason,
it is.
Indy says duck. I don't know if it's on purpose. Well, anyway, this movie's good. Next movie,
Very
The Others.
The others.
Anyway, we love you.
We do. Thanks for listening.
Think critically.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.